all with Babatlal College of Pharmacy. And then the sponsored people AICT and IICT for a drug discovery and development to give a virtual platform for many learners and enthusiastic people who is doing a research in this pharmaceutical domain as is a life science domain, because these kinds of techniques are nowadays are coming to a place and then you are getting by a hand and you are getting expertise. That's what I will say that. So Babatlal is doing that. I am so happy to for the college and then the team who is giving this kinds of an opportunity to all the peoples. So today here, so the basically it is a drug designing methods and methodologies that we are going to explore today. And one of the most crucial thing I could say that a drug without having a functional proof, it's still considered as an inactive. So when you know more about your drugs or a compound, and when you exploring in terms of an atomic wise, that is in a real idea of doing a research in a pharmaceutical domain. So when you say a pharmaceutical domain, then of course then there will be definitely a term called pharmacophore will be there. So what is the pharmacophore and how this technology and methods will help to your researchers or in a people who is doing a work on defining or identifying active molecules will help them. So that's what the whole session is going to be, and we are going to discuss a various methods, methodologies, and how to explore these opportunities and how to see this information. So when you have a kind of a pharmacophore, how do you do that? And if you have that compound, how do you identify the important functional group? So that's all that we are going to discuss it on today. Let's walk along with me and see what is going to happen in the pharmacophore modeling and how to do the database training. It is a kind of a lead optimization technique in it, like Anvi's drug designing. So before going into this, I would like to introduce Abuchas. We are Altem Technologies and we have been implemented in a various domains of mechanical engineering as a 3D bioprinting of 3D bioprinting also. Now, one of the wing of Dashal system is a BioVR Discovery Studio. Earlierly, we call as an Accelerate Discovery Studio. So we can see that in the right hand side, left hand side, you can see the awards has been gained by our organization. Moving on, so directly into the BioVia, because when you try to learn some tools or being or any kind of software, it is more important to know about its background, how it has been get. So how we utilizing it is really on, and when you choose any tools and not only telling there's a softwares or even online tools, when you try to explore it, try to see the references, how they worked out and what kind of technology they followed, and any kind of machine learning algorithms are there, and if so, how they trained your molecules, how much reliability and sensitivity, everything need to be analyzed before you design or you come out with a new solution for any drug targets. So has like that, the BioVia Discovery Studio is also having a rich scientific portfolio right from the unified lab management. It is a kind of a replacement of CAPAC technique. That's a, you are trying to go for laboratory and we try to take our body values, or you will try to do some kind of a synthesize or a scheme, and later on what will happen after a few days after, it will try to discard and it will be degraded also. So instead of that only, we are having a technique called an electronic laboratory notebook. It is a cloud computing based technique where you can store as like a laboratory, and automatically you can predict a graph and it interpret and gives you results, which can be utilized for even many decades also. That is one of our aims. And more into a process production and operations, quality and regulatory management, because every time when we take any tools, definitely under a very quality control and regulatory, and we check for documentation. Let me say, for instance, we are having a TopCat prediction tools. TopCat is nothing but we'll be seeing what is mutagenicity and carcinogenicity using a different animal models. When we say animal models, there will be definitely a regulatory affairs will involve. So there we'll be doing a quality and regulatory management also. After getting the documents, we'll be feeding into our system and developing within various algorithms that you will get it in your predictive models. So in the collaborative science, right from the predictive models, if you have a structure, let me say that you have someone curcumin. It's a common one which you can see even in your cooking accessories also. curcumin or clove-based things, or I could say the charcoal or heterocyclic-based compounds. Any compound you're trying to take, definitely that compound and the derivatives will have different activity values. So that's what we'll be doing. That even if you have your sequence in the sense it is nothing but your target sequence. Even if you have your sequence, you can predict its models and you can evaluate and you can give the results. Even for your biomolecules or a compounds, you can take that molecule, you can identify the what are the neighboring things that is associated with it. Maybe your properties, maybe its activity or its functional group and its behavior, and what are the things that are associated, that also you can able to predict by using various tools and softwares. And some people nowadays, people are, I can come to see that many papers are coming in peptide based drug designing, and where people are doing antibody based modeling, like a technique we call it immunoinformatics. So you can want to design an antibody rather than a small molecule. Yes, of course we can do it using a technique called antibody modeling, and it's analyzing things using a method called novel therapeutics. And no, even I am an inorganic chemist, or I'm really interested only in the drug delivery, like a nanoparticles based drug delivery, or an polymer based drug delivery, or you can liposomes based drug delivery, or even adenoviruses based drug delivery. You want to do that kind of an analysis that can be handled by using engineering materials, where you can construct the material and you can incorporate your drug and you can see its simulation behavior. From that you can able to draw the conclusion. So that kind of an analysis can be carried out using material studio. And of course, when you go for a formulation, especially in agriculture or cosmetic products, they will have always have a formulations in terms of a certain concentrations. How they are identifying the concentrations. So what are the chemicals can be introduced in a specific bioproducts. All these kinds of screening with the toxicity prediction, whether it will make an ocular irritancy or non-ocular irritancy, or it will make a mutagen or irritancy. So all these kinds of chemicals and formulation also can be carried out using a BioVia Discovery Studio. This is the whole thing about an BioVia Discovery Studio scientific portfolio, and this is scientific white paper for your references. And I was mentioning about collaborative science. We have a comprehensive tools, not a one tool. If you fail within a one workflow, some people's what will say it is not coming out, and I don't want to continue with that. We should not stop our research like that. Always we should have a next tool or yes or no workflow. When it's no, you have to get into the next branch of your cycle, and you have to proceed in such a way. So that's why we have a comprehensive tools with your flexibility for enterprise application integration. So in that collaborative science, what can be analyzed, what can be done? Life science predictives. Of course, if we take any biomolecules, of course, there will be a life will be there. So that's why we'll be doing a life science predictive analytics, material science, more into material science like carbon nanotubes, scientific pipeline. So some people will like to develop the protocol, not want to interested in using other people's protocol. Still, if you're interested like that, you can do the pipeline pilot research, where you can pick the components and you can design your own pipeline or design your own algorithms, and even you can execute your process. That's what the people will do it in your scientific pipeline design and executions. And if you want to do collaboration or externalization or cloud computing or doing any research applications, so all these things you can do it very broadly using these kinds of tools and softwares. And getting into the funneling, we are more into moving on to the life science predictives, where we'll be analyzing a biological modeling and simulation, small molecule modeling and simulation, and QSCR. Even in the QSCR, it is not only QSCR workbench in the sense you're not dealing with only one particular protocol like a PLS, partial least square, or MLS, multiple least square. Even the things of advancement is going on, moving on in a machine learning algorithm, especially in the QSCR technique, where they are trying to introduce a random forest models, partial least square methods, and genetic function approximations, recursive partitioning, and Bayesian categorization. This is all becoming a very popular along with artificial intelligence, and people trying to predict without getting into these kinds of an analysis, just by looking at the compound and then the workflow. It now predicts for which disease we are going to use it. That is a kind of repurposing that also can be done by using different tools and software. So in a total, in our put a nutshell, I could say that you will help you on a comprehensive and collaborative modeling for a life science discovery research. So this is what an introduction about it. Now, actually, we are getting into strategies. If you go for any kinds of computer-aided drug designing, definitely you will fall under only in these four categories only. Let me say that you know that you are synthesized compounds, or you know some natural products. You want to target against a specific proteins, maybe SARS-CoV-2, which has had a very high pandemic issues that we are still living on that. You want to see that, yes, of course, there are a lot of protein structures are available, and you have a lot of drugs has been synthesized, or you have a database. Using that, you can able to predict and you can analyze it. That is how the for the COVID situations, people are trying to do the research on this kinds of using a strategies of computer-aided drug designing. And still, if you have know your protein, let me say that SARS-CoV itself has a lot of proteins and various different mechanism and machinery to invade or to enter into the host cells. So for that protein, you can design a new drug using a technique called de novo drug designing. Or let me say that, on the other hand, I'll put it in such a way that you have a lot of ligands in your hand. You know that your laboratory is enough full of ligands, and some people is working on one synthetic routes, and some other people is working on another route, and totally put together you are having a lakhs of molecules. And if you want to proceed to identify for which drug targets or the proteins or for which disease it will effectively work on, then we call this a ligand-based drug designing or a pharmacophore alignment. So before starting into it, why we need to do this analysis? That's what I want to make you all to get interest into it. So if you have a lakhs and lakhs of molecules, if you don't know for which protein or a target you want to use, then you are getting into a ligand-based drug designing. That is what is going to be a today's topic. So impact of bioinformatics, drug discovery, it's not an one particular field is involving. It is involving right from a genomic level to a drug candidate level. And you can see that some life science people who is working on a molecular biology or more get into the genomics and bioinformatics, and it turns into a protein chemistry or protein structural based things, then we call as a structural biologist. And the people who is dealing only with a high throughput screening, let me say that you are testing your molecules in different petri plates or different wells, or I can using some kind of high throughput screening methods and identifying the hits, then we involving in a chemoinformatic technique and put together with your proteins and lead molecule. Actually, from there, we are going for a structure-based drug designing. Once you identify a lead molecule, then you have to go for a candidate drugs. Your lead candidate will be satisfied only when only when it is obeying a pharmacokinetics and dynamic properties, because we know that many of the drugs are failed even though if it is FDA's approval because of not obeying a proper pharmacokinetic and dynamic property. So put together these all these techniques will help you, or methods which is involved in that will help you to accelerate your research for your designing your drug molecules. And what is this LPD? So why we need to do that? Let me say that in the absence of a reliable protein structure and you have only your ligands, then we'll be going for ligand-based practicing. It is really very straightforward. So when you have a new ligands, we don't know about which protein, then you can close your eyes and you can go for a ligand-based drug designing. And indirect drug designing, because this term has been for the past 2 decades only people are spelling these terms ligand-based or rational-based, structure-based like that. But before that also, indirect drug designing has been done by our peoples using a traditional organic synthetic methods by our medicinal chemists. And they don't know about it, whether are we doing a drug designing, but they are indirectly we did this kinds of an organic method and we identify the, and they also told that chemical compounds are the starting point for your ligand-based drug designing. So traditionally, because we should know about how the traditional ligand-based drug designing has happened, is a target-oriented and diversity-oriented. It started from 1960 itself, using a synthetic of molecules called retrosynthetic analysis. So if you are a medicine chemist or a pharmacologist, you will definitely will come across this term. And this technique helped solving a many key elements, has solved many problems when the people is having lots of diseases in the earlier days. Only this kind of a method has been rationally used to help them to come out with new kinds of compounds. And this problem is solved using a key structural elements, because we'll be introducing reactive products and reactions rather than reactive substrates to code for your synthetic transformations. So nowadays people are also doing a biotransformations, taking a compounds or secondary metabolites from plants or even from microbes, and they're trying to do the biotransformation. That is also becoming very popular nowadays. And you will be identifying how this synthetic chemistry start a structurally complex. Even still now also, you know about a penicillin. It's a very complex structure that it can able to produce using synthesis without having these kinds of techniques, but they can able to produce a penicillin and even a very complex structures also they will make using that kind of an earlier days techniques. And diversity oriented synthesizers, like I would say that sulfanoamide drugs, if you take a time you can just go and explore that sulfanoamide drugs. When you think about a starting point, it will give you a very big evolution, like how people are trying to discover how the earth is evolution. Like that sulfanoamide drugs, if you try to see that moiety, they started from many decades, and you can see that pharmacophore has been transformed from one person to another person, and they come out with new kinds of drugs. Now sulfanoamide drugs are becoming very popular in treating various dreadful diseases also. So mechanism of target identification and drug discovery in a cancer disease. That's what they don't know for which disease, but they identify treating these drugs, introducing certain different moieties or classifications. What is its moieties or I was keep on telling that, or the fragments. These are nothing but the functional groups of the molecule responsible for your biological activity. If you replace this functional group and if you're trying to introduce some other group, that will definitely either increase your activity or decrease the activity. So that's what they have been identified. Now we are seeing in terms of as the keep on the contemporary works, it's keep on doing in a computational biology and chemistry field. It's so showing you in terms of an eyes. Here the reaction is happening. This is what is happening, and this is an atom-based interaction. So that is what is trying to elaborate and showing in this particular field. So what are the different approaches that we can follow? So if you have, let me say that you have a known compounds. I already finished my assays and I kept my molecules, but I still want to identify the specific drug targets for that. Yes, if you're going to do that one, we have a technique called similar substrate. So using that, you can identify, let me say your compound is there, and you can use in a various in a publicly available database, PubChem. Nowadays, the databases also keep on increasing. ASNIX is one of the database, ChemDiv, and PubChem, Zinc. Earlier, people will depend only on the Zinc, but there are a lot of databases. Even Sigma Aldrich database is also there, where you can access by using certain kinds of login requirements. You can give your structure and you can identify similar molecules. More similar molecules will have a similar function. That is an idea of doing a similarity or substructure search. Or else you have in a compound and you want to build a statistically model for your analysis. That's a technique called QSTR, where you're trying to identify the what are the properties, let me say that A log P or molecular weight, acceptors, donors, or a molecular surface area, a partition coefficient. So like this, one molecule will have a different properties. Even your NMR is also one of the property. C13 or proton NMR is also one of the property, and mass. So all these properties, how it is contributing for your structured activity relationship. So that's what they will do it in QSTR. This is a second approach for your known actives. Or else you have your database of molecules where you're trying to develop a pharmacophore. What is this pharmacophore? Let me tell you an example that, see, in your laboratory, when you're trying to analyze your senior or a fourth person who is already finished a PhD, and they add molecules with the IC50 value or some kind of inhibitory values has been designed, and you're trying to take that molecules, and that was reported for some disease. I could say that in breast cancer. So when you repeat a disease, or will use a pharmacophore. If you're very smart enough, you should not repeat that one. But what you have to do, collect those compounds and develop the model. So when you try to, because you have an activity value with you, develop the model out of it, and then screen your molecule and identify the predicted biological activity value. So this technique will save your time, and you will end up only with the best molecules of your project or research works. So smartly, you have to go it within a techniques called a pharmacophore modeling of your known active molecules. And let me get into another extent. So if you don't know, if you know or don't know activity values, still you want to develop it, yes, you can use. This is a pipeline pilot research that people are, it's gaining a very popular among many peoples, even the chemoinformatic peoples, even for bioinformatics and next generation sequencing people also. So machine learning methods and algorithms with a data science analysis, it's playing a major role. So these are the different methods and approaches that you can address in your ligand-based drug designing. So first approach, I'm trying to tell you about all the approaches, how to do that approaches. So the molecular similarity, where you try to identify your two similar molecules, which is more similar to each other. And it is a widely accepted one in a rational-based drug designing. And then the principle is say that structure similar molecule likely to exhibit similar properties than a less similar molecules. And then you will be trying to identify the similar molecules in terms of drug designing methods, and trying to accomplish the best molecules will have a similar molecules will definitely will have a similar properties or similar activity also. That is an idea of doing that. And how do we do that? You can do it by means of molecular properties such as the molecular weight, A log P values, like that. And then it's a most often terms in terms of an otherwise by means of identifying a distance measured technique that we call as a structural or a physiochemical descriptor space. So this is by means of numerical properties. So these are the different algorithms.
11:20 అయిపోతుంది ఎన్నిటి దాకా జరిగింది క్లాస్
So finding the molecules in a library with the numerical properties to identify with the reference ligand. So let me say that you have your reference molecule in your hand, maybe hydrochloride you kept in your hand, and you want to analyze what are the different molecules like a hydroquinone. So you can pick any of these distance methods like LSTM, Manhattan, or 1 minus correlation, or 1 minus correlated square with your reference ligand, and you search the database to end up with a certain molecules. So this is a formula, it is trying to follow. It is a simple distance formula, but in a complicated way they have been described over here. So it will try to identify and shows you the best molecules of your similar, best molecule or similar like molecules. This is by means of numerical property similarity. So how do we do that? So we will be using a tools called find similar by numerical properties. We will input a database of molecules with a reference ligand, and we ask a tool to identify the how much percentage you want, and what is the distance we need to follow, and what are the user properties, how much properties need to analyze. And finally, we get a results like this. Once you click results, even if you give a database of molecules, here itself will says you how many molecules are similar, and if it's similar, what is the distance in between them. This distance is nothing but which protocol you use LOCM distance. You have to interpret in such a way to draw your conclusion. Now moving on to the fingerprints, that is a one way. The second way is by means of fingerprints, that is moiety. Bit by bits, your molecule is having you're having a phenol ring connected with another naphthalene ring, and then some aliphatic groups. So one C double bond of C, C double bond of 2, or C double bond of ONH, all we call as a fingerprints of a molecule. So if you want to analyze the means of fingerprints with a reference ligand, then you have to follow any one of this method. So when you see this method, any tool that you're going to work out on a publicly available database will have this name called Tanimoto. or dyes, cousin, and mostly I can come across, this is mostly a tanimotor similarity. That means it is identifying by means of fingerprints of the molecule. And this is a formula for the identifying similar molecules. And since it's a commercial and proprietary tools, it's a discovery studio, we are trying to introduce other kinds of similarity measures also, like a dyes and cousin, and then target-based things. And I told you that fingerprints. So what it will try to do for each and every fingerprint. So it will try to hit like it and converts in terms of bits values 0, 1, 1. Then the hitter, it will form in a 1. And it not hit it with the fingerprint, it will try to write 0. So how much it is hitting, how many ones you are getting, it will try to add up, and then it will enter into the formula and then gets your results. So this is how any tool, when you see in a publicly available database also, will do this function based on the fingerprints. So here, how we will do this process? We will take a set of molecules and the reference ligand, and then we call it, this is by means of find molecules by fingerprints. So once you find your molecules and then given a similarity and then that coefficient, and then you're asking for the fingerprint, and then it identifies and gets your results like that. So finally you get a similarity. Okay, this molecule is having 6%, 60% similarity, 50% similarity, and you want to increase the similarity, of course you can increase by means of over here. So first approach, that means identifying a similar like molecule. Second approach is by means of QSCR, that is a quantitative structure activity relationship. And other means also you can able to do that. We have a technique called quantitative structure property relationship. So if you no want to identify which are the properties are suitably be mathematically transformed, we call as a property relationship. So when you go for QSCR, you have to always address it two questions with you, or what features of your molecule affect its activity and what modify to enhance its properties. So if you take a structure, look at in terms of fingerprints, and then divide the molecules in terms of atoms, and then you address this question. Then only you will be getting this answer. Maybe replacing of an NH in position of ortho may increase the activity. When I replace the ortho position with an hydroxyl group C double bond of OH or C double OCH3, like that, it will definitely reducing the activity. Means that point of the ortho position of your molecule is very important for the biological activity. So in the position of NH, when you're trying to replace with another functional group, it is reducing activity. Rather than that NH, when I try to introduce in some other groups or sulfur groups into it, if it is increasing the activity, then that is considered as a most important crucial pharmacophore position. Okay, so like that we have to compare and we have to analyze your results. And quantitative, when I say something like quantitative, it is a mathematical model to account for your observed activity, and it will help you to identify your biological process and give insight knowledge about your compounds. And also you can identify the experimental value of your property, like a similar property compounds will try to take in a large amount of resources, and you can determine it individually also. So in a QSCR, it doesn't, I would say that this is not a toughest technique. It is actually a very easy technique. Only one thing we have to know the terms. One is a dependent variable, that is your biological activity. Independent variables are your properties. Okay, whatever the properties, it is not, it's mentioned only in the tool, it is trying to mention 2D property, 3D property, or 4D properties. Even you can bring the external properties of your molecules to develop the QSCR and try to correlate with your observation values. Is it really a log P value or molecular weight or the different descriptors? It is like that. We have an A equal to B. We'll try to prove it in your school days. The same technique. So when you have your Y, what are the X's should be added or the property should be added to satisfy that Y. So that is an idea of introducing a QSCR technique. And then QSCR signal is a huge variance. So only when you identify the proper properties, that will identify your biological responses or activity. So identifying the descriptors is a task over in your QSCR. And the consideration, so you have to identify a dependent variable, and you can bring an that is experimental value, And accuracy, all the experiments that we are doing will never have, will definitely will have some kind of a manual error. So that's why we introduce a term called uncertainty. And activity range, some will have, you should have an even coverage. When you're taking in nanomolar, try to take it only in the nanomolar. If you millimolar or a millimolar. So these order must be followed when you introduce your dependent variable. And these independent variables, it's of the improper choice. See, when instead of choosing in terms of an A log P or a molecular weight, when you try to introduce in a surface area or in a moment of inertia into it, that is called as an improper choice. So choosing or choosing a variables, it's the most important part in QSCR. And sometimes what the people will try to do, they will try to identify the compounds right from a 1, 2, 3, 4 like that, and they will have fit of your molecules. So high accuracy of the molecules will have a training set, and we have a less accuracy in your test set. So these both should have a proper balance. When you're asked or if your correlation is in terms of a 0.971 and your test correlation is in terms of 0.65, it is acceptable because both are in the same range. Or my training set is 0.9 and my test set is in the value of 0.6, then there only the Hubinian paradox has been occurred. So don't try to take the molecule in such a way to get a high test set training set of molecules, because none of the sets, it will not be a perfect model for your QSCR. And the training set, minimum 20 to 30 compounds need to be taken, and less it may limit it, because some study will have a less molecule, but it's still limited. You have to do little kind of trial and error methods. And chemical diversity, it's most important, where you're trying to try to take a diverse molecule of set. It will help you to screen for any number of molecules that is present in the database. And moving on to the pharmacophore. So pharmacophores are nothing but essential features. That's what I was keep on trying to sell you all from the beginning, which is responsible for your biological activity. And then the pharmacophore we call as an ensemble of steric or electronic features that is necessary for your molecular interactions. So there is also a whole story that I could tell you all that some ligands are will be there and receptor will be there. When you take the 3D spatial arrangements, your receptor seems to be perfectly fit with your molecule, but it will never go for docking at all. What is the reason? Because there is a problem in your chemical features. If even though shape is complementary to each other, chemical features also must be complement. If your receptor is having a rich in donor and your protein, your ligand is also rich in a donor, what it will try to do, even though structure complementarity, everything is perfect, it doesn't give you the proper binding affinity value or the dog score, though it is same. So chemical feature also must be complement to each other. Acceptor should bind with the donor. Donor should contribute with acceptor. Hydrophobic should go and bind with some kind of hydrophobic domains, and your positive ionizable to contribute to negative ionizable. So all these things also, it's more important for your molecular docking. So giving a docking alone, it's not a result. Identifying the feature is more important and crucial way of drawing your conclusions. So pharmacophore uses, so it will try to explain your structure-active relationship. So either by means of, that's what I was trying to say that, so three-dimensional interpret model, either quantitatively or qualitatively. You can introduce in a quantitative-based methods or a qualitative-based methods, and it will try to predict the fits or activity of your new molecules. So if you have any molecules in your hand, you want to predict the activity of your new molecules, yes, of course, even that is also possible. And you can try trace your new molecules. If you, for instance, that's what I said in the beginning, if you have built your model and you want to identify the which ligand will definitely will go and hit to that kind of an analysis, you can do it by means of this analysis. And by using this kinds of pharmacophore, you can build your new molecules and come out with a novel lead candidates. Not a drug, it's a lead. We tell in the three different terms: hits or the molecule which is hitting with your system or in a protein. Lead is a molecule which is obeying your pharmacokinetic and dynamic properties, and the drug is a molecule when it's satisfying all the phase clinical trials. So when it comes into the terms, when they write the papers, so don't get confused out of this also, because hits are just in a molecule, it is docked or being used for enough first step of analysis. Only the lead or the drug candidates has a meaningful biological activity, and only the drug is going to satisfy all the properties. So you can also introduce a scaffold hopping technique. The scaffold hopping technique, you can come out with a molecule. In that molecule, you can say that these are the features are more important for its interaction, or you want to change the functional quantity or fragment. That is also fine. That is also possible by means of scaffold hopping. Or else you can use a mining of database. For instance, if you have a database of ligands, present of pharmacophores and patterns, even that is also feasible. You can handle by means of this pharmacophore. So pharmacophore has a more significant applications in your pharmaceutical domains. And if you know about this pharmacophore, you can draw the more conclusions. Clinical workflow. So we should know that when we have to use a pharmacophore, in which perspective we have to use that, and what are the techniques or methods are available in that. In terms of ligand perspectives, let me say that you have some compounds in your hand. Uh, there is also one other term that is need to be addressed: conformations. Some molecule will have try to take a more number of conformation. Some molecule will take a less number of conformations. So what is a conformation of your molecules, how it is going to have it or fit it in your system, that also need to be addressed in terms of ligand perspective. So when you take your molecule, when you see your molecule in terms of an atoms, you also put it your molecule three-dimensional space. When you put in three-dimensional space, how well it will comfort or rotatable bonds are there in between them. And according to Weber, he also mentioned that rotatable bonds should not be greater than 12, because if it is more rotatable bonds are there, then the more flexibility, then molecule will have failed sometimes in the market. So even along with the Lipinski's rule of 5, there is also one person who is described about in a total surface area, and also in a rotatable bonds also. Even these two also need to be considered when you go for ligand preparations. So that we'll be using a tools called diverse conformation generation and feature mapping. So the feature mapping will help me to understand, or anyone to understand about. So even if I'm new to this technique, I am some scientific, I could say that some people who is working for a pharmacological domain can understand about the pharmacophore features. But what about the people who are coming from a life science domains? They don't know about the feature mapping or pharmacophores. So what we'll be doing, we take a compound. Let me say an example of curcumin itself. When you have a curcumin, then I want to identify the what are the features are present in the curcumin. That means where the acceptors are present, where the donors are present, where the hydrophobic are present, positive ionizable, or I could say the hydrophobic aromatic or hydrophobic aliphatic. So like this, we are having a more than 15 kinds of features are present in your compounds. Then you want to know that, we will be taking, simply we take the molecule and feed it into a tool called feature mapping that will help us me to identify the features. So these are the locations are there where you can identify the compounds. Now we know about, okay, my molecule, or I could say that my active molecule is going to have these good features present in the structure. Then my similar molecules also must share the same structure. That is an idea of the pharmacophore. Now how do we generate the pharmacophore? So pharmacophore can be done in two ways. Quantitative method. So one is a quantitative method. That means you know your activity of your molecule, and using that you are predicting the pharmacophore, that we call as a 3D QSAR, three-dimensional quantitative structure activity relationship. Even we call that as a COMFA model, that is a comparative molecular field analysis. And there is also some other technique is also there, COMSIA, where they'll try to identify the isosurface area of your molecules. So these are all the quantitative methods of your analysis. So what if the people, some analysis or a new work will never have an activity value? If you want to identify, yes, you can do it by means of a qualitative analysis. You don't know the activity, but somewhere some people say that this molecules have can be treated for nephrological diseases also, but you don't know the activity. And like that, you are trying to collect some same molecules. So assay selection and qualitative analysis. And then activity selection is very important. You should take only for one particular assay. If I'm saying that TRF assay, TRFPT assay is some assay, or MC7F7 assay, which you're treating for breast cancer, your molecule also or number should be taken only for that specific assay only. Instead of that, you are taking in a molecules randomly from a cancer assays, maybe in a EGFR assay, alpha, beta, gamma, even are taking for a different alpha and beta also, it's not a proper way of doing kinds of an analysis. When you're sticking to alpha, try to take only the alpha-based molecules and look it for the assay. Assay methodology might have been different, but the compound must be carried out only to that assay only. So that is very, very important for any kind of quantitative, maybe a QSCR or 3D QSCR or a qualitative structure analysis. So this is a most crucial method that we need to follow. On the other hand, I'm not going to deal with there is some molecule or a receptor will already bound with our X-ray crystallography structures. Or I could say that T is a drugs or thiazolinic drugs bound with PPR gamma or alpha like that. And I know I want to start from that place. If you want to start that place, by instead of doing a docking, you can create a structure-based pharmacophore. Usually what we'll be doing in docking, just take a receptor, identify the binding site, do the docking, and see the interactions and draw the conclusion. So how well this form will be there, because reliability and how do you take the molecule for experimental analysis. Some drugs will fail even when you go for these kinds of blind methods, I could say that. Rather, if you do it in terms of a structure-based pharmacophore, that is identifying a pharmacophore for your active site amino acids. If you have your active site amino acids, so when you try to send that, try to imagine you have a protein. In that protein, you have the binding site. The binding site, we are generating the pharmacophores. So when you try to generate the pharmacophores of your active site, what you have to do is you have to identify the you can take it for your analysis. That's an idea of using a structure-based pharmacophore. And you can also define your inactive molecules using ensemble or enrichment analysis. So what are the techniques that we use? So if you have a qualitative, we use a methods or technique called a common feature pharmacophore. If it's a quantitative, we go for 3D QSAM. Structure-based, we go for interaction generation. It is applicable for both the techniques. If you have your homology model technique, you can use the interaction generation. If you don't have a bound ligand, we go for an interaction pharmacophore generation. So both the techniques are available, and both the tools can be used widely for identifying a structure-based pharmacophore. And for refinement of inactive ligands, we are using a tool called a steric refinement with the excluded volumes. And finally, once you're done with your ligand perspective and pharmacophore, then we are moving to an analysis. You should know now your pharmacophore is generated. You kept in your hand and pretend that you have the pharmacophore and set of database of kept in your hand. When you have the both the things, what we have to do next steps? You have to compare your ligands with the pharmacophore. You need to see that whether my particular pharmacophores or the ligands will go and fit with this pharmacophores or not. So that's how we'll be going for this analysis. See, I have you can have to think in your mind right now that, okay, I have one pharmacophore and then database of ligands. I can do that. So what if I have multiple pharmacophores? So you are trying to generate a structure-based pharmacophores. Maybe I could say that for many cancer drug targets, you are generating a structure-based pharmacophore. Can we do it by means of multiple interactions? Yes, even that method also is available. So that's just a different methods. So first, if you have only one pharmacophore, multiple ligands, we are going for a ligand pharmacophore mapping. Or you want to compare your pharmacophores. Say me say that curcumin enol form and curcumin keto form. Like that, you want to compare what is the difference in between the two kind of non-equilibrium state of compounds. Yes, you can use it by means of pharmacophore comparison. Screening the library. If you have a huge number of molecules, maybe I could say that more than a lakhs and lakhs of molecules, maybe 50 lakhs of molecules are there for one another hand you have a pharmacophore. So you can use in a screen library. And for multiple ligands, you can go for popular and uniquely you can see it only in Discovery Studio. And some cases, people don't want to create a structure-based pharmacophore, and there's a database of molecules, but inside Discovery Studio, we are also introducing a pharmacophore database. So you can pick even from the database of pharmacophore, and you can do this analysis. So all these methods that you can follow in a pharmacophore. And finally, if it's a 3D QSER, you can end up with an estimated values, and then you have to interpret your results in terms of fit values. And then you can also draw your conclusion based on your potential activity molecules, which molecule is more potent. And from that, if you, before going for your synthetic routes, you can design the molecules and identify the scaffolds, and then draw your locate your functional groups, then go for experimental analysis. That will save your time and help you to come out to with and draw your best molecule analysis. So these are the typical pharmacophore workflow for any extreme analysis. Protein you can analyze, you have activity you can analyze, without activity also you can analyze. So what tools we'll be using for this? Ligand pharmacophore mapping, search screen library, ligand profiler, and search tree database. So that's what here I was trying to explain here. Pharmacophore modeling without biological activity, we go for autopharmacophore generation or a common feature pharmacophore. With the biological activity, we go for 3D pharmacophore generation. So a little bit we are telling, so I want to tell you about 3D QSR because it's the most and crucial technique, and we all should know about it because to save our time and to accelerate our research process. 3D QSR pharmacophore. So I try to pick only this one because it's crucial. So 3D QSR pharmacophore will help you to generate using predictive pharmacophore models using an algorithm. So even if you do any analysis, look for which tool we are using, which algorithm it is trying to develop, and what is an efficiency of that algorithm. So all these things has to be encountered or confronted before you're going for your analysis. So it try to use this in a catalyst hypogen algorithm. It's a kind of an algorithm with some kind of a mathematical modeling, and they develop, and it is kind of a most promising algorithm to derive for your structure activity hypothesis. You have your molecules with a known activity to a specific given biological target, you can generate the pharmacophore. And your 3D QSCR, it's typically different from your QSCR in terms of descriptors. Descriptors are nothing but your molecular properties. So QSCR will try to derive only the descriptors from your ligands and says about it. But 3D QSCR will say about how well your ligand fit to the pharmacophore rather than the molecular features. So this is a basic difference between your 3D QSCR and your typical QSCR model. And how do we do that? So generates your predictive models from a set of molecules and try to use as a hypogen. So any 3D QSR paper you take, you see this word called hypo 1, hypo 2, hypo 3 like that. So it try to use as a hypogen to derive your structure active relationship from set of molecules. So what is the input that we need to give to this analysis? So first of all, you should have molecules within a tested molecules with the IC50 value. So you also can think about it for toxicity prediction, LC50 value, EC50 value. Even if you have those kinds of toxicity prediction, we call that technique as a quantitative structure toxicity relationship. Even you can take those values also, and you can do the same procedures. So here I'm trying to explore for an inhibitory concentrations. So where they'll try to take an IC50 activity value, even if you have an a Ki value, inhibitor concentration value also, no problem. You can take even those values. Basically what we need is the biological activity value. It could be in any form, but it should have follow the same order of magnitude and the unit that has to be taken in account. So if you're not using a logarithmic data, there's an advantage of using a logarithmic data. Say some values will be in thousands, some value in ones, and some value in integers, some will be not one, not one, like that. So if that is the case, it's better to take it for logarithmic activity value. And here in this tool, we no need to give logarithmic activity value also. We have an option to do the process. Just give the true and do the process. And of course, in the 3D QSR, a more important parameter that is we need to introduce a uncertainty. So uncertainty is nothing but how we are doing experiment. We cannot rely on your activity value. There will be minute changes will occur. So when you have, that's why we always need the 4 order spans of magnitude of your values. And the uncertainty will be ranges from 1 to 3. So you can choose 1, 1.5, 2.5, 3, like that. It should be externally given to the data set, and then you have to run your process. And if you forget to give this one, if you're not sure about the uncertainty, means you can, if you're missing property, automatically 3 will be taken for its analysis. So we should know about how this algorithm is working. So for instance, let me consider or pretend that I have the set of molecules and that I have IC50 values and input for this analysis. First, in the constructive, any pharmacophore will definitely will go only these steps only. First of all, it will try to construct the pharmacophores. In the construction phase, it will try to generate the pharmacophore that is among the active molecules in a given training set. Let me say that in your training set, you have 21 molecules, and tested you have 20 or 50 molecules on your hand. So the most active molecules in the training set will be picked up, and then it will try to generate the pharmacophore for that. So now it kept that, okay, for my active active molecules, I have one acceptor, one donor, one hydrophobic. And then I could also add that one negative ionizable. Now, once it finishes constructive, it goes to second subtractive phase. In this phase, what it will try to do, it's very simple. It will even take the inactive molecules. It will take the most common, most inactive compounds and try to fix it with your constructive phase pharmacophore. So when your inactive molecule is going and matching with your pharmacophore, more likely to fit to your pharmacophore of your active molecules, that pharmacophore will be removed. Maybe the negative ionizable is more contributing with your inactive molecule. That one will be, that particular pharmacophore will be removed, and rest of the pharmacophores alone will be taken for the further analysis. I could say that acceptor, donor, and hydrophobic. Only these 3 pharmacophores taken for the next process, optimization phase. This optimization phase will try to use an algorithm called simulated annealing. It will try to apply the small permutation to the pharmacophores. It will try to see that whether this particular pharmacophore is really perfect and it can be taken for molecules or not. It will develop and identifies and optimize those pharmacophores and improve the score of your molecules. That's why they say that hypo 1 is having a correlation of 0.6 or 0.9, 0.7, like that. So that is all depends upon your optimization phase. So constructs, removes when it interacts with an inactive substance, and optimize it. So this is a very simple algorithm, will explain you whole construction of your pharmacophores. Now you have, and you want to create a pharmacophore, and you have a 3D QSR pharmacophore. So what we will try to do in the pharmacophore option, we have another option called create pharmacophore. This is a workflow manner. So, and then we'll be choosing a 3D QSR pharmacophore. So for that, collect the biological activity, process more than or equal to 30 molecules, divide the test and training set using a random fashion. Even we have the tool called generate test and training set, and the small molecules will do work automatically for you all. This is also a kind of a time save method, and this is a trial and error fashion. So we cannot assure that which training set, maybe a training set 1 or training set 2. This is a trial and error fashion method. It goes on for a long time. So maybe some will get in 100 hits, some will get it in for a 50 hits, some will get even a 10 hits. It all depends upon the run time it's dividing. And then don't try to superact here and then put a molecules of same activity. When you try to draw impaired model, what will happen, that will affect your test set and also your screening molecules. Even though the most active molecules also will be missed out, then we try to introduce in the improvement and then following the same values or nearby values. And then repeat the process. That's what I say, that repeat the process to get maximum regression values. So this is an setup in Discovery Studio. And you can see that tool over here. And in that 3D QSR, we'll be trying to use a tool 3D QSR and put your molecule taken. In case if you want to introduce a logarithmic, give the rule. Or if your molecules are not in your same magnitude, some are different and somewhat some is not following, there will be 1 1 1 will be there. Some will have in a 0.2 0.3 like that. So even some molecules will have a repeating values also 0.2 0.2 0.1 like that. So if it is like that, it will confuse a program, or for that only we'll say that take 0.212 0.221 like that. If it's not there, rescale your activity value. That is the importance of this particular option. And of course, all the molecules will have a different conformations. Why we are introducing conformation? Because only the best conformation of your molecule will have a more fit value with your pharmacophore. That's why people will try to introduce a conformation generation in the 3D QSCR. And then features, how do we define the features? First of all, you have to take your active molecule from your training set and then run the feature mapping, where the feature mapping will say you about what are the features are present, and from that you have to define. Here they will have a pop-up option. When you click, you can automatically select that and how many pharmacophores you want to generate and minimum interface distance. This is also a trial and error method. So we keep on changing this value. Some will have a 0.2.1, some will have 1.5. So this is an interface distance between your pharmacophores that also it can able to predict. And maximum excluded volume. Some will try to follow the local method, that is a leave or not cross method. And if you don't want to leave the maximum any volumes of your system, then you can give 0. There is also the internal validation is there. Some papers will say Q value, that is nothing but an internal validation method, or you can do the external validation also. It depends upon the people perspectives only. So we can give the validation true, an input test set like on sums like on true, and then fitting method, you can choose a flexible or you can choose an rigid method or omit features. Here we are finding a leave one or cross method. And in advanced options, you can go for a Fisher randomization also. This is a statistical validation of your molecule. So when you run this protocol, this is a multi-parameter analysis tool, I could say that, because you should keep an eye on your Fisher validation and you should keep an eye on your validation and your interface distance and develop the pharmacophore. All the things must be satisfied within one particular protocol. That's why we never get to results by first run or two runs. You have to keep on running at least for 10 to 15 times. Then you can predict your results by changing 2, what is the result? By changing 2.5, what is the result? 2.1, what is the result? So like that, you have to analyze your results and you have to validate your analysis. So this is the small experimental setup for your 3D QSCR. So results will look like this actually. So what are the important parameters that you have to look at? First, your results will have a huge page like this, and you see a detailed analysis. You have one definition. So acceptors are present, donor is also present, but in hydrophobic, it is aromatic is present, and small hydrophobic is also there, along with a positive ionizable. And we look into the tolerance, total cost, null cost, and then fixed cost. Fixed cost is nothing but for your molecule molecules, and then the more towards your molecule, total cost of your molecule towards your fixed cost is considered as the best. And the null cost is the one which is an extreme one where it is not mapped with your pharmacophore. So all this cost values also need to be analyzed when you go for this 3D chemistry. But once you create a one model, you can keep it and you can use it for a later purpose also. That is an idea of this is only a one-time process. Later on, if you are doing, maybe A person is doing this analysis, maybe B, C person no need to do this analysis. They can cite it like this. It has been generated from the so-and-so paper and developed in your laboratory and you place further analysis. So you can quote or cite like that and you can proceed your results. And an analysis, it's very important, most crucial part of your analysis. So hypogean calculates the two costs. I told you, right? We have a null cost and fixed cost, and it will help you to determine the significance of your hypothesis. Little bit mathematics also will be here, and you get your results like this. This is a hypothesis and the cost, and you can see we'll automatically get this table also. So cost values are very important, and you have to see where your cost value is lying. So this is your cost value. Your cost value will be given over here. This is for cost values, your cost values. And you have to see where your cost value is lying. Is it near to your fixed cost or away from your fixed cost? That means upper limit is your fixed cost, lower limit is your null cost, and your cost value. It should be more towards your upper limit value rather than your lower limit value. So you have to identify where it is there. In general, we can say that if the difference is greater than 60, if your null cost and the total cost difference is greater than 60, then there is a chance of your excellent true correlation. So getting this, it's not easy, but you get it. But when you do it a clinical, keep on trying it, you will get this result. It is not impossible, it is feasible, but it needs a certain little bit effort for that. You can, this is also, you can automate this technique. You can run a 10 to 15, 12 at the time, like how we'll be replicating in your wet lab laboratory. Here also we can do this kinds of same analysis, same time, but different parameters. You can run the process simultaneously, it will run, and at the time you can interpret your results. That is also feasible with Discovery Studio. And then if you're saying that 60% true correlation, we'll try to lie between a 40 to 60, your probability is 75 to 90%, and the difference became less, then the true correlation will rapidly falls below the 50%. That is an idea of interpreting your fixed cost, null cost, and your hypothesis. And your results will look like this. So what is a fit? Total cost, root mean square deviation, and then correlation. Correlation is 0.9. It is not feasible at all. For some data sets only it is feasible. It is a standardized one. That's why we're getting like this. And you can see that some of the molecules, your fit value, estimated value, and then activity value. This is activity value and estimated activity value. And what is the error? And then what is the status? It's active or inactive. Mapping is very, very important. You can see the mapping location 25, 50, 45, 31, and 9. And you have to see that there is some star state that says that 34, this is a hypothesis one, and the 34 molecule is also active, but you can see the star or some kind of an special characters that says that that is also fitting with your inactive molecules. So see here, your inactive molecules also showing star. So this hypothesis should not be taken. So many people ask me this, should we take only the hypo one for your analysis? Not like that. When your hypo one active molecule, it's mapping with your inactive molecule, then your hypo will give you false positive results. So don't take that. But however, may taken maybe a second hypothesis, third hypothesis, fourth hypothesis, your active molecule should not map with the inactive molecules. That is the idea of interpreting your mapping results. And you finally get your results like this. And this is nothing but a pharmacophore mapping. We are trying to map in between the two balls that you are trying to see inside your big ball. And this is a positive ionizable. Color codes will vary from software to software, but properties will never change. Excuse me. Properties will never change. So this is, if it's a ring aromatic, then definitely there will be a benzene ring or some other 5-member ring will be there, and donor properties will be taken here, and then acceptors and donors. So in Discovery Studio, green is acceptor, and then pink is donor, and orange is ring aromatic, and red is a positive ionizable. So that table I showed you, right? So in this table, this table, we are trying to form it for 10 different scoring hypotheses. So hypo 1, 2, and 3 like this. Total cost difference nothing but null cost minus your total cost. And then RMS difference, correlation, what are the features, and the configuration cost. The configuration's cost also must be less than 70. Then you'll have a very good position of your molecules. So all the values are in a bits, and then you have to see the abbreviation. You cannot write acceptor donor asset. That's why people will try to always put in terms of an abbreviation below your table. And to see how well you fit your molecule. So first you can select your molecule in the pharmacophore, and you can see almost all the features are perfectly fit to this particular pharmacophore. This is a maximum fit and the active molecule. Similarly, for a moderate fit. So in the moderate fit, you can see here it's a moderate, it is not fixed properly. This one is out of box, and this one is partially filled with this particular ball. So we call this as a moderately active molecules. And the least fit molecules. Least fit molecules, see here, the two of the pharmacophores has been rejected, have been not taken for a mapping analysis. Rather, one of the features has been properly fitted to that. So this is called as the least active or the inactive. So when it comes to the pharmacophore, rather than seeing in terms of a scoring functions like a values, here you have to interpret in terms of fit values, how much fit it is happening, or how much mapping it's happening, how well it is getting mapped. So these are the two terms that we need to analyze when you go for a pharmacophore-based drug designing. This is a final table for your reference. So I have taken some of the molecules and its activity value, and you can see the variations in the conformations. And conformation 9 is fit for a well estimated activity value, and this fit value is 0.6. And then acceptor, mapped with the acceptor donor, there the mapped atoms are there. That is also has been mentioned here. And then the mapped features and mapped locations. So all the things, if you're not sure about the mapped features, you can map the locations. That means 1 point. These are the locations, 0.1, 0.2 like that. So 0.21, 2.1, and 2, 1.1, 2.1. So when you open your results, try to interpret and look for all the relative results to your pharmacophore. So when you have this particular generated pharmacophore as there, this is basically utilized for an MC7F7, MC79 cell lines that is basically using for a breast cancer analysis. From that molecule, we have taken some of the molecules. So when you develop a very good model for SERM, you can screen the same pharmacophore for your breast cancer molecules. So that is an idea of introducing the 3D QSAR. So your output pharmacophore will basically looks like this, and you can map your molecules like this. And these are the location of your molecules. Of course, there is also another one which we need to understand very well. So let me say that NAFO database also will arrive as like a ligand database soon. So if you have your pharmacophore-based drug designing, if you want to create a library or you want to use a default library, can we do all this option in Discovery Studio? Yes. Some people or some as a user interested and some are default interested by the software itself. We have a user created library, then you can go for a ligand pharmacophore mapping screen library. And if you have a default library, you can do for the search 3D database. So default library in the sense, we already built the database like a mini MapBridge, database, and SCB PDB database. So we can develop that. Maybe if you're interested to develop your own database, yes, you can develop your own database also using an option and the tool called a build 3D database, where you can build and you can use it for analysis. If you're coming to user created databases, maybe you are trying to collect the compounds from various sources and you are saving in a chemical format, and want to utilize for your further analysis. That we call as a user-created library database. And from here, you can go for the ligand pharmacophore mapping or SPEEN library. So either way, you can access your analysis or you can access your work to get finished. So how to create your library of compounds? So let me say that you're identifying a chemical compounds from chemical publicly available database from a PubChem or a ChemWell, or you're trying to do the literature search and you're trying to maybe in CAS database, you're trying to collect from some compounds. From that, you are trying to input a chemical formats. Chemical formats are very important. SD format, SDF. So when you're trying to take that, try to take the molecule same formats that will help you to save your create your library very easily. Smiles formats, smiles are nothing but a molecular input line entry system format or SD format or SDF format, MOL, MOT, whatever the chemical format, even CDX formats, all the chemical formats can be taken for this analysis. Discovery Studio is a vast platform and supports a multiple formats to do your analysis. And you can do the similarity search inside the tool, or you can do it in a public databases and collect the molecules and retrieve your batch process of molecules in SD, SDF format, and then use a compound for mapping with their generated pharmacophores. So this is how you have to create a library. Or maybe you are a medicinal chemist or a pharmacologist, you have a synthetic, if you know about a synthetic route and designing of molecules, do it in a ChemSketch or ChemDraw and try to derive or end up with more than hundreds and thousands of molecules. Use those molecules also and then build your library. And once you build your library of molecules, and this is a pharmacophore. So first of all, if you want to access this tool, in the protocol menu, we have the pharmacophore. Under the pharmacophore, you have to compare your pharmacophores, and under the compare pharmacophore, you have to access a ligand pharmacophore mapping. So what is basically input is needed for this analysis? First of all, your pharmacophore that you have created by means of a quantitative or a qualitative or a structure-based pharmacophore, any pharmacophore that is required. And then the set of molecules. It could be your molecule or database of molecules or natural compounds. So whatever the natural compounds you have, you can take those ones. So the ligands, and then select the confirmation space, and you can opt for any kind of fitting method, flexible or rigid kind of a method. Once you take the board, and then you get the results like this. And even you can use it same with your SPEEN library also, where you input your pharmacophores, and here you can define how much features you want to and a minimum. So each tool have a slight difference in these options, and you can use either one of the tool for screening analysis. And the search database, here we are trying to introduce a database of molecules. Let me say that the input database, drug likeness properties, and then we are also having now in 2020 versions, 2021 version, we have a SPDB that we collected a compounds from PDB database, and then we incorporate as in a part of the software. So you can even choose that database. If in case if you want to build your database, you can build and it will become a part of your software. And then you can also see talent ligands, what method it has to follow, and parallel processing. So all the options are in your hand, but only thing that is required is your pharmacophore alone for this analysis, rather than the previous methods where we have to introduce the ligands. In advanced options, we have the database of molecules also, that is also can be applicable. So you can use only the pharmacophores, and then you can screen with your molecules. So all these things are being, I could say that, are inclined to only one pharmacophore and the set of ligands. What will happen? So now it is in we have to do our research very fast, and we don't have a time to analyze our results also. So if we want to do multiple ligands, multiple proteins, and multiple ligands, you want to away from your classical method to follow a more smart method of screening, that is also feasible. You can introduce a technique or a method called ligand profiler, where your multiple structure-based pharmacophore has been taken and mapped with your multiple ligands. It is a multiple interaction. So take your set of ligands and set of pharmacophores. So here I am using more than one pharmacophore and the maximum number of ligands. And how it will try to identify the pharmacophores, it will try to use a catalyst to map the set of ligands with a set of input pharmacophores. So here also the tool will have a certain kinds of algorithms to work on this. And the pharmacophore selection includes acceptor, donor, like that. And the queries that is present, in case if you're not aware of it, if you're not sure about it, you can introduce or you can take it to compounds or data pharmacophores that is present in Discovery Studio itself. We have a more than, I could say that a huge database of a structured pharmacophore database, which is comes along with the software. You can use that one that all for screening of your molecules. And there is also a file extension, like your molecules, like a drug, small molecules or your chemical molecules will have STSTF format, and your protein will have a PDB format, but your catalyst, your pharmacophores will have a .chm format. So that is a difference between the different file formats. And how well it will fit. So here I have introduced multiple pharmacophores, and then I try to identify the which molecule will fit best for you, my molecules. So when you see this, some molecule, maybe a pharmacophore 1, this molecule, ligand 5 is having a best fit. You can see how well it fit to this pharmacophores. The molecule is fitting to this particular pharmacophores. And the least fit pharmacophores, that is nothing but your fit value 2.8. So here I will try to miss your molecule, will try to miss or map with your some of the pharmacophore that present in three special arrangements. So here this one we call as a lead fit compound. So how do you perform this analysis? So first of all, we'll go for the pharmacophores. Under the pharmacophore, open the ligand profiler. Under the ligand profiler, input your ligands. So how many ligands, a database that you want to process, you can use that ligands a database and input file pharmacophore. So click here and browse it. You can have more than one pharmacophores for this analysis. You can take many pharmacophores and you can input. So you have multiple ligands as an option here. In case if you want to have a database of screening, yes, you can do even that also. If you try to zoom this one option, you can see here input ligands I have given, and then set of the pharmacophores or set of pharmacophores, and then the confirmations. Or if you don't have the pharmacophore, you have an input pharmacophore databases present in Discovery Studio. When you select this option, it will show you the actives, shapes, and non-shape based pharmacophores, and you can take this pharmacophores and the confirmation generation. And then if you want to do the instead of ligands, you don't want to take a ligand, I want a database. Yes, input instead of input ligands, you can choose for database, and that will automatically take the database of molecules. Which method you want to follow, what is the interface. So interface is also very important, that will decide between your molecules or a pharmacophore distance. And then finally, see align ligands to all the options, you try to keep as true and false, and then run your analysis. Once you run, you get your results like this. Interpretation of results is very important in a ligand profiler. You get a results by means of a molecule versus a pharmacophore versus your molecules. First of all, let me say you in terms of, you can also see your results. It will be .chm. When you see .chm, it's nothing but catalyst file and nothing but a pharmacophore. SD files are nothing but your molecules, and PL file, because all the extension of our Discovery Studio will be expressed in terms of a Perl format. That's why it will be in a Perl extension is a .pl. That's why you see in a .pl format. So first, let me see and explain you about a molecule that fit with the pharmacophores. So there are the pharmacophores. I have given 10 different pharmacophores, 1, 2, 3, like that, and set of molecules. And this is a value that you have to interpret. So for the first pharmacophores, you can see this particular molecule, it's having a good interaction or having a good fit. 1.1 is a very good fit. And I'm trying to see that the sulfonamide, it is having only a 0.9. And then trioxafen, it's having a 1.12. For first pharmacophore, I could say that this molecule is best. Then you're trying to see the second pharmacophore 2, I'm looking for the fit values. Okay, trioxafen is having a good fit for this particular pharmacophore. And then third, I am looking for a third pharmacophore. Only one is having the fit. with the highest fit value of 1.9. And similarly, I'm looking for seventh pharmacophore and identifying the best molecule. But the same drug, just showing here with a good fit, will have an improve the fit value or mapping with even the upcoming pharmacophores or reduce its value in the above next to form, explain you all these informations. Now let's see in terms of a molecule versus pharmacophore and fit value. So in terms of a molecule, so these many molecules, the same molecule, PO2 diethyl amino ethoxyphenol based compound, it's fitting with the first pharmacophore rather than the eighth and second pharmacophore. That is nothing but this is a one for breast cancer, this is one for skin cancer, this is one for lung cancer. Your molecule, this molecule goes well for breast cancer. When I look into the next pharmacophore 10, and the compound sulfonamide goes well for a 10th molecule for a breast cancer rather than for a lung cancer. So like that, when you try to create a sum of your structure-based pharmacophore using interaction generation or interaction pharmacophore generation, input those pharmacophores and then with a database of molecules, screen and identify the multiple interaction between them. So if you do this kinds of an analysis, you don't want in the docking where take a one particular drug target and a multiple ligands dock and identify the hits, and then we'll be looking for which molecule. But here it is an alternative technique, but it's the most easiest way of analyzing a best molecule for a best particular drug targets using a technique called ligand profiler. So even anything in terms of a graphical representation of graph, that will be very easy for us to understand. So you also get an output of your heat map analysis and it will help you to show to identify. So if you have the, you can see something in terms of green color, so that is not well fit with your molecules. Something you see in a green, red or orange in color, okay, fine. That molecule and pharmacophore well fit together. And something in between them, these are the intermediate fits molecules. Some may have activity, some may not have activity, but these red color indicates will definitely will have a good activity. That is a kind of an interpretation. That's what I explained over here. First pharmacophore of repeated blue cells indicating a lower fit values. Orange or red cells will have a higher fit values. So for each and open each pharmacophore results and check its fit value for the maximum aligned molecules and then pick your best molecule for your analysis. So this is how we have to draw your conclusion for your multiple interaction. So in a nutshell, I could say that this ligand-based drug designing can be carried out in your various ways with activity value or without activity value. Even for your even you can carry out the same process for your protein also. For protein, for ligand, you can introduce the same technique, but what is a common in between them is a pharmacophore. So take that particular pharmacophore, do any kinds of ligand-based drug designing to accelerate your research. So thank you everyone for staying with me for a long time and hearing my lecture. If you have any queries, feel free to ask.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for sharing your valuable knowledge. So participants, please utilize this opportunity so you can directly ask madam. Any queries is there? Yes, yes. Ahmad sir.
Yes, you can unmute or you can put your message in your chat. Please unmute and raise your questions.
Ma'am, I asked to unmute you.
Can I interact with it?
Yes, please, sir.
Divya madam, very good morning, Dr. Divya madam. Sorry, it's very good afternoon.
Good morning, sir.
One by one.
Okay.
One by one, please. Okay. Sir Rajnikant sir, you can ask.
Madam, how we? Yes, sir. Yes. Madam, how we assign dependent variable and independent variable, madam?
So in the assign dependent variable, you have to give your dependent variable. That is your IC50 value. Independent variable, yes. Independent variables are your molecular properties. Molecular properties is nothing but each tool, I will tell you, Open Babel is there. They have a different descriptors, a log p value, molecular weight, and in Discovery Studio we are having a different descriptors. So we can pick those descriptors and you can